Hello, everyone. PK, you legend.
I don't know what to do.
No, I don't knuckles.
You don't do knuckles?
I don't do knuckles.
We touch.
Touch, mate. You got to feel like, you know. I saw it the other day, they were talking about if meditation sounds too complicated, too difficult, and is a hard thing for you to grasp because it's kind of been taken in all of these philosophical ways, that this in itself is meditation. And the closing of the male and the female, masculine, feminine, closing of that positive, negative, and just to sit and just to put the two hands together, just like that, is meditation enough for anyone and a great place to start.
In our situation, which was the male and which was the female when we did it? We'll decide.
No, we're just male,
okay.
mate.
You know Jack McCoy's thing where he hugs on the left
Yes,
side, heart to heart?
heart to heart.
That's cool.
That's super cool. I mean, you think about that connection when you hug someone, and I consciously do that. Since Jack introduced that idea to me, you go in for the hug, you go heart to heart, and you know that those things are beating and connecting, and the basic health principles that you're going to get from that connection to another living being. Hello, peoples. Welcome to the Stoked Bloke Show. I'm Barton Lynch. This is Peter King, and I am the Stoked Bloke. Today we're going to look at the Tahiti Pro, break that down, and have a look at what that sets up leading into the final five. Showdown at lower trestles. Also got a pile here.
Yeah, what do you got there?
I've just got these incredible messages, heartfelt messages from people who are stoked on what we're doing and have shared themselves and their experiences, and we've already been able to create a community and bring positivity and stoke into people's lives, and it makes me want to cry. It makes
Just
me
by
so
being
happy.
here and sharing these stories, already they've connected with the podcast and they're reaching out and writing you. How do people get a hold of you on your mostly? Do you find it on YouTube or do you find DMs in your Instagram?
All of the above, yeah.
Nobody writes you a letter to your mailbox, do they?
No, not to the mailbox, but this was an email, and I think this is from a 41-year-old in Canada. And to me, this speaks to what we're here doing and what we're sharing and what surfing gives us, what it gave the ancient Hawaiians, tying it into that whole concept as well. And he goes, here is a bit about me. I'm a surfer from Canada who started surfing 4 years ago at the age of 41. Like so many others before me, I dove into it completely and have rearranged my entire life to make surfing my number one priority. Good job, mate. Since then, I've become healthier than I've ever been. And of course, it's all to support surfing. I've given up drinking, given up drugs, given up processed food, late nights, TV, basically anything indoors, and I easily stick to my workout routine. I hope to surf in the Nationals before I'm 50, and I love that idea of having a goal and having something that you're working towards, you know, and it's not really about being competitive and it's about you growing, and that's what Teague here is talking about. What a gift this has been. Almost all of my chronic physical issues are gone, at a healthy weight for the first time in 30 years. My mental health is better than it has ever been. I feel better than I did even in my 20s, and I look as healthy as I ever have in my life. Thank you for eloquently expressing what so many of us have experienced with surfing. This is Teague Ryan. I hope he doesn't mind me saying his name, but he shared the email with me and is just, he's stoked, mate. He's changed his life and he's used surfing to change his life in such a positive way. So thank you for sharing that with us, mate.
What'd you see down at Chopu? Any surprises, or did everything go exactly as you had predicted?
I was super impressed by Kelly. You know, and I felt the magic. I heard him say, I'm feeling some magic. And in my mind, I went, uh-oh, that might have been the end of the magic. Because it was kind of shared and released, and the ego kind of got in for a second, went, I'm feeling the magic. And to me, I'm always a little superstitious about that.
He shouldn't have said it?
I don't think he should have said it, mate. He should have kept his zipped and just gone, I'm feeling it, but I'm not going to show anyone I'm feeling it, and just stayed in the lane, you know. And when you kind of open it up and let it out and go, I'm feeling the magic, and it's like the magic kind of goes, and it spreads. It's not concentrated anymore. And so I don't know whether that had anything to do with it. And obviously Carly Vast in the semi-finals, their semi-final preceded Brisa Hennessy and Vahini Fierro's, who I was heavily invested in, and it didn't break and was won on, you know, a couple of ways with turns, and that was a heartbreaking situation for her and for me. And And then Kelly's heat came and he kind of got stuck in that same trap. He was expecting better.
Did he get semis or quarters?
Semis.
Kelly did.
Yeah, and he got beaten in the semis by Cowley Vast. Cowley had had 5 waves while Kelly sat. And Cowley, like no other on that reef, and he was very, very impressive. He was super impressive, that young guy, and he will win that event. You can put the house on him winning that event at some point in the future, no question about it. And it could be 1 foot or 25 feet, as we've seen, you know, with the waves that he's caught out there. But in that heat, Kelly, in his mind, he's thinking, well, it hasn't broken for 40 minutes, essentially. There were 2 one-wave sets. And that didn't tube, that were just... So he was waiting, I think in his mind going, well, it's coming soon. It's got to come. It's been this long. And there have been long lulls, but not that long. And then Cowley just got to work and found amazing tube rides on different parts of the reef because his experience and knowledge out there is just so vast. And Kelly was gone and he didn't even really get a show in that semi-final. And I felt he was going all the way. But so that was impressive. It was good to see him fill the void without Gabby and John there and really kind of put himself there and go, yeah, see, he is in that league still. Can't go anywhere without talking about Matt McGilvray's 10. Was absolutely, it was a stonker, as they say. That was the way he fell out of that lip, and it speaks to the commitment and dedication of that young man over a long period of time.
Who says stonker? Nobody says that.
You've never heard that?
No.
It was a stonker, mate.
Is that Aussie?
I don't know. It could be from anywhere. Maybe I just made it up.
I think you did.
Yeah, it was incredible. Fell out of the lip, side slip controlled, as deep as you could be, big set wave. It was everything the criteria talks to. And that was amazing to see him achieve a moment like that, because 10-point rides are as good as a win, Nelly. You don't get many of them in your career, like you don't get many wins. And so to see Matt get that was amazing.
And they haven't been throwing out 10s very loosely.
No, not at all. And that was an amazing ride, so props to he.
Was that the only 10 of the event?
Yeah. And then there was the hog, Nathan Hedges. I think it went 9.67 or 9.7. It was right near there, and I was thinking it was a 10. I was like, it's a 10 for sure. He fell out of the roof. It was super late, super deep, super critical. Came out, the knee slipped off, and it's dragging in the water, and he pulls the knee back onto the board and makes it. We talked about the sort of controversial nature of his wild card. I think it's very fair to say there's kind of 2 sides to it. One, I still would have loved to have seen Matahi. I don't go anywhere from that position. And the word in the street from Tahiti, and we've got a lot of close friends there, was that people weren't too stoked about it. And there was a ground current of dissatisfaction with things because he didn't get a start. And I looked at the Nathan Hedge performance in general, and it validated him getting a wild card. It was incredible, especially as a sponsor's wild card. And he did himself proud. He did his sponsor and giving him the wild card proud. Then in my mind, though, I just went, well, did he do anything that Matahi couldn't have done? And Matahi is the best at late drops out there.
Well, he was wearing outer known trunks. That's all they cared about. It's a sponsor's wild card.
So again, that was props to Hedgie. He did amazing and had a great event.
You could have put Clay Marza would have done great. Ace Buchan, who's a former winner, would have done great. A lot of people would have done great. But when you go wild card, you gotta give something to the locals. Come on, people.
Yeah, no, and fair enough. I agree, and we both agree on that. And I think that's
But you're right. I mean, his performance was.
Yeah, it was beyond his years. Yeah. And again, you would have looked at a 43-year-old and gone, I can do that. And so there's this bar that's constantly getting forged upward when it comes to age.
Well, he was a wild card that performed great, but this gets me back to thinking, why are there wild cards? You're just damaging the guys on tour who have earned their right, and then you're throwing in the best of the best at this local spot. And this is a tour. This is points. So you're knocking people out with these specialists, these assassins, these local assassins.
Exactly.
I think there could be a good argument made that there should never be a wild card. You just go down the list of who hasn't qualified yet, the next guy, QS, Challenger, WSL, whatever. That's my opinion.
And it's 100% agree with. I agree. Those spots should be for that tour. And there's the Challenger Series, the QS to the Challenger Series to that, and there's this path that you can shortcut if you've got the right sponsor. And that's really not in the spirit of sport. And there's a lot of people working their butts off out there who deserve spots. And so, yeah, I agree with that. I think the wildcard thing is, you know, it's been upsetting in the past in events, you know. We've seen all wildcard finals at Pipeline, at Chopu, where the specialists are that localised and that good that it sort of throws the cat amongst the pigeons in a World Championship Tour field. So that was good. So I think that, you know, you go Kelly, Kaoli, and then we go to Miguel Pupo, you know, and you go, how sick that Miguel Pupo won the event.
That's an emotional victory for everyone. Such a great human, huh?
Yeah, he's a great human. He's been in the sort of back end of the Brazilian storm. And, you know, even Jaddy would have, most probably Jadson Andre would have been sort of in front of and he's back there and he's been flying the flag for his nation and for himself and his family for a long time.
And he fell off the tour for a couple of years.
Yeah, and his brother's made the tour and he's there with his brother, and his brother had a great event in Brazil, and his kind of brother was almost at that point of kind of going in front of his older brother in terms of what they've achieved.
And that's younger brother. There's a big gap there. And also Sammy got Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
So the Pupo family, did you ever compete against Wagner or no?
No, I do. I competed with Wagner, and I remember Wagner well, and he's made me a board in the past as well.
So you competed against Miguel's dad?
Yeah, I competed against Miguel's dad. That was a wonderful one for me. That put the lump in the throat, and you kind of sat there and went, yeah. And it speaks to the, you know, we said it in regard to Courtney, you stay there long enough, you keep doing your thing, you keep working, you keep pushing, you get your day. And that was Miguel Pupo's day, and I loved it. I thought it was such a fitting winner, and he surfed amazing, and he competed amazing. Without priority, he was able to find scores, put pressure on people, and very deserving winner, and I love that. Congrats, Miggy. Well, the ladies was, you know, that first round was disappointing. The waves were terrible. And I know on that day before they ran, they waited for an 8 o'clock call, a 10 o'clock call, a 1 o'clock call, because they were trying to get the event done before the swell, was the reality. And there was a push for that. So then the next day starts and they go on hold, and then they actually run those heats, and it was, you know, 2 to 3, 2 to 4, and kind of ruffled and really not anything. The big day came, and they didn't hold any heats of the women, so they didn't get that experience. And then on the finals day, they ran the men first thing in the morning when the swell was at its strongest. Normally they kind of go women's quarters, men's quarters, women's semis, men's semis, women's final, men's final at a location like that. But again, they sort of dodged the brunt of the swell for the women, and so I felt sorry for certain people who wanted to surf it big, who wanted to go, wanted to charge. But in the end, regardless of that, might be fair to say that the best won anyway. You know what I mean? And although Vahini Fierro is the queen of Chopu, and in serious ways there, I don't think there would have been too many questions, you know. But Courtney Conlon was able to sort of be there, present, focused, and able when it was smaller and rubbishy, when it was inconsistent, and then when there were sets and when there were waves, she was putting on a show. It was a really fantastic show, you know.
You had called that out, that Courtney was going to excel.
Well, I just know that she will commit. She's really, you know, she's experienced. When you haven't failed enough, you are fearful of failing. But once you've failed enough, you lose the fear of failing, and the success comes more easily.
That's why I always hit a good golf shot after a bad one.
Yeah, well, and because your expectation of self-lowers, you know, and my experience for myself was, like, there was a year where 1986, I believe it was, where I could not get past the ninth. Couldn't get past the ninth, and the ninth was a pretty average result. That's getting through one round back then, and then losing in the second round. And I went back to board riders just to try and get past the ninth in something, anything, and get that feeling inside me. And I went to board riders and got a ninth at board riders. and it was just like, hey, I give up. That's it, I surrender. I'm never getting past the ninth. This is... And, you know, there was tears and, you know, little tantrums and all sorts. And I just surrendered. The next event I went to, I got past the ninth. And there's this process of pain and exposure to that you're fearful of, so that you become not. And when you're not, you're able to go to do what you do with a different disposition, and success follows.
So you've lost a heat before?
Way too many.
Lost more than you've won, huh?
Oh, I don't know what the old career win-loss percentage is, and it'd be interesting to know. But I definitely have lost and failed way more in life than I have succeeded. The only reason I've been successful on a bunch of different levels, I believe, is because I've tried so much. I'm never sitting at home doing nothing. I've never been bored a moment in my life. I don't know what boredom is. I've never experienced boredom. I haven't. When people go, I'm bored, I go, what is that? How does that exist? What is that? If indeed the presence is in self, and you want to do things and you achieve things and you know yourself, and you're willing to sacrifice your comfort, your happiness, and all those things that make you feel secure for growth and development, you throw yourself out there and you have a go at things. And I mean that. I've failed way more than I've succeeded. And I even look at it kind of in the context of professional surfing, go, well, I only won one world title. There's only one. There's blokes with 2 and 3 and 11 and, you know what I mean? You go, well, that's succeeding, but in some people's eyes and in others, Kelly's, that maybe is not succeeding. So right. Based on the depth of being and the purpose inside you and what you want to do and achieve with your life, that's where the stoke comes from as well. That's where that opportunity to live your dreams, be you. And I feel like that's the journey of Courtney. She wanted that world title so bad. She still does. But in the face of the failure and the not achieving that potential that you have and that goal you have, you try all the different ways. You experience yourself, you go within and you try and understand yourself and find the ways you can make yourself better. And through doing that, that's what we saw the culmination of all that work and all that life's commitment from Courtney with that win. So
you weren't surprised that regular foot won because it was her?
I would have put Carissa Moore in that same talent level and in the same bracket in terms of talent, but and I'd say this with all due respect, I don't know that there's a willingness to endure the potential outcomes of throwing yourself over on that reef. For Carissa, that is, yeah. And I just felt that that's what Courtney had, is that level of, she ain't scared. She's been scared before. She knows it's not going to kill her. She's lost before. She knows that's not going to kill her. You know what I mean? She's failed and not achieved things that she wanted to achieve before, while she's had great success as well. But, the ultimate success hasn't come her way yet. And I do believe, I said that to her in a message, I do believe the best is yet to come for her. Miggy's performance in the finals, he played it the way he played a lot of those other heats. While people sat and waited for the bombs, he used the west inside and just slotted himself into a 5. There's a 6. Oh, this one was a 7. And those points started going up and the pressure on Coley started to mount. And in your back of your mind, after the Kelly one, I was feeling like he was going in with the momentum, but he surfed his final against Kelly. That was his final. That
happens a lot. John and Kelly in 2014.
It does happen a lot.
They used up all their chia seeds in that heat. And they lost to Medina pretty easily. But.
Yeah. That's what we saw, I think with Carly. Getting in front of Kelly Slater is like a childhood dream. That's, you wouldn't have believed that you were going to have that happen to you. You make the final, you're against a super hungry, smart competitor who's gone through all of the failing. He's gone through the exact stuff we talked about, Miggy, and fronted up and got it. I think it was smart competing. He knew where there were other opportunities when he didn't have priority, and the busyness that he had and the scores that he was building without the priority put pressure on the people with priority that made them freeze. They sat there longer waiting for something even better and better that started to take what they were looking for out of the realms of possibility, and then you've just sat too long and he's accumulated a lead, and then he went to his priority game and solidified the deal.
Side note, if John would have gone to Tahiti and won, he would have been 4th.
And made it into the final 5.
But, obviously it's up to him to make the call of how his knee was. But
yeah.
I know he's surfing Fiji. I feel like I would have double taped, triple braced that leg and been there, but that's his call. Jack, real quick. I don't want to forget about
he's
Jack.
He's sailing around. John's sailing around the Pacific.
Yeah, he's having
on
a good
his
time.
boat with his family, his wife and his friends, and they're living the dream. I mean, what a wonderful, like for him, he has learnt that there's much more for him outside of surfing competitions that challenge him, that thrill him, and it's not only competition that does that, and it can be a dangerous thing. I feel like we've seen that a little bit with Stephanie Gilmore, although she's won 7. There's this broadness to her personality that it's not all about the competing, and sometimes it may need to be.
So what about Jack Robbo?
He was, again, the surfing performance was there.
The hog got him.
And it was just the inconsistency of those conditions, and there weren't... The highlight reel of the event is unbelievable. But to sit through a day of it with 20-minute lulls, the highlight reel doesn't tell the whole story. And it was easy to get caught out. It was easy to go one that you thought was good and all of a sudden it doesn't barrel and behind it's the one. There was a lot of that type of thing going on, which... If you try and think about how do I eliminate that, that's just luck or that's just the nature of the ocean, but there's most probably ways the people who are most connected to themselves and to that environment and to that moment in a quiet, peaceful way, they're the people who were able to manage that environment the best.
If you had Jack Robbo's Apple Watch phone number and you could text him while that heat was happening and Hogg just got that first wave, would you tell him to zip in and stick with him?
I would have told him, don't ride that one behind. The problem was he didn't know the score, right? Which came in short and he was still in the lead.
And when you're sitting out the back, you don't really know what's happening at a Chopu wave. There is no back on those waves, so you don't know if that's a 4 or a 9.
Yeah, and the crowd is hooting at everything. They all come across as 9s. And all of a sudden you feel like you need to surf. If that score comes quickly and before you get a chance to surf and you hear it and you're still in the lead, there's no way he's going that wave. And that was an impulsive learning opportunity. And that was, it was a critical moment in that heat, and it meant that Hogg then had the priority and was able to get the second score and it was done. So it was a tactical error. And it wasn't a reflection of his ability, but it was a reflection of his ability to control himself in a heated moment. And maybe that's exactly what he needed going into the final 5. You know what I mean? Those type of experiences. And I keep saying it to Vahini, you lost. It was just a little thing. If you didn't paddle for that wave and waited with the priority and they didn't get that one, you would have won. If you didn't paddle for that wave or paddle down to them and sat with them, they didn't get that wave, you would have won. It comes down to little things, mate. And when it's little things, you're on the right track, and you just got to keep taking the lessons and taking the beatings and taking the heartache and learning the lessons and believe and know that it's happening to you because you need to know it and need to learn it. And in there you can maintain some kind of faith in yourself and in the commitment to the journey and deal with the ups and downs of that life as a pro surfer, because it sucks, mate, losing all the time, because there's only ever one winner. You know what I mean? If you're going to win, you lose. And back to the original, where you go, did you lose a heat? Mate, I lost so many heats and little things here and there,
There's only one winner at every contest.
Yeah, and you just keep learning. And as long as you learn, it's a win. Because you learn something you didn't know, you're experiencing something you didn't know, and it's going to come in handy one day. And you just got to believe that. And that's been my journey, and then I watch it play out in other people's lives, and that's the journey, mate. Keep going, don't quit. You only lose, you quit. You only fail if you quit. If you keep going, there's great stories ahead.
Was the saddest thing you've seen recently Griffin getting knocked out of the top 5?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, it's at his home break.
It's at his home break.
Again.
He won 2 events.
2 events and didn't make the top 5.
Consistency is obviously his problem. And, talking to the highs and the lows, you win an event, right? You go to the next event after winning an event and you try to replicate what you eat, how you slept, what you did, when you waxed your board, when you paddled from the boat or from the beach, and you try to replicate everything and you try to stay exactly the same person, but you are not. And this thing's been flooded with adrenaline and with those great feeling hormones. You freaking are there hoping that you can be as hungry, but you aren't. And you're satisfied and the ego gets involved and it's complicated, and winning back to back is so hard. And that's what, and even the consistency of winning and then losing and then winning is a tough lesson for Griffin. But I believe in that kid so much. Hey, I love the way his honesty, his integrity, and this experience will hurt. And especially being at home, it actually hurts the Final Five and hurts the event. Because in the men's, we've got 2 Australians, 2 Brazilians, and
Kanoa from
Japan, or HB, yeah. So that's got some local in it, but representing Japan. Yes,
Kanoa, I mean, the balls on that kid, right?
Yeah, and again, if Griff was to go, there was only Kanoa who you could accept taking him out of that Final Five. Kanoa going into the event had had a great year, but not the best, and he's really good and really hungry and really experienced and really determined, and the way he pulled that last-minute ride out to win in that moment, that was off the back of all the accumulated experiences of the past, that he was able and ready and prepared in that moment to do that. And so it was amazing, and congrats to Kanoa, and he'll shake things up. Coming from 5th is going to be a hard slog, but no harder for Italo, who they meet up, and we'll go through those heats in just a sec. I do feel for Griff. I feel for the people of San Clemente. I was so looking forward to seeing them all on the beach and the crowds going up, and the way he surfs, he could have taken that thing all the way, in my opinion. So yeah, that did hurt, but he'll be better for the hurt. So we're going to have a look at that top 5 for both the male and the females, and we'll get into it in a little more detail closer, PK, when we know who's got what injury or who's where what and what's gone on in the next week as we approach dates of the 8th to the 16th, so still a bit of time. The 4th and 5th matchup is Italo Ferreira and Kanoa Igarashi. Really, it could go either way. I've got a feeling that I feel like Italo, if he connects and lights up at the right time and can take to the air, he's not doing it on the face. And I don't think you're doing it with backhand Rios. You know what I mean?
Although 2 backhand Rios is an 8-6.
Well, it's consistently an 8. You know what I mean? And any more might take your score down.
That's right.
So you may as well stick with the 2 backhand Rios.
2 backhand Rios is an 8. 5 backhand Rios is a 6.
Yeah. It's
only in WSL land.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad because it denies the opportunity for the ride to become the dance. And as a surfer, I'm not looking for the shortest ones. I'm not looking for I love the longer, even if it's tube ride. Longer is better, in all of those senses. So for those 2 guys, Italo and Kanoa, it's going to be a long day. And they're going to have to win, all the way through. So the winner of that, Italo and Kanoa, goes up against Ethan Ewing. And I could see Ethan Ewing, 4-foot lowers, maybe getting gobbled up by the momentum of having the first heat. You've got Kanoa and Italo who can both go to the air significantly. And then you've got, you come up against Ethan, whose primary game is on the rail. And it's that beautiful style, the beautiful surfing. I feel like, he won J-Bay. It matches that lineup. You put it at lowers. Is there enough on that wave for him to flare and it to stand out without going to the air?
That wave's not as steep, and it's not going to be as big no matter what.
No matter what. That's right. And almost it gets to a point where it's kind of mushy. It's so big, isn't it? So you kind of don't want it to get too big.
Don't get me started on the choice of the world title being decided at Trestles and not macaronis. I mean,
don't start us. That's right.
Don't get us started.
Again,
it is what it is. Let's keep going.
And that's and as a competitor, that was always always the mantra for me was, you don't make the decisions. Whatever they tell you to do,
it's the same for everyone.
And as a judge, as a coach, when you're coaching someone or as a professional surfer, when the judges' scores come down, your job's not to critique it and have an opinion about it. Your job is to understand it. break that score down and understand where the score come from, so you can use that information to get the score you need when you need it too. So
This is what they're calling a 7. Let's learn and let's do it. Let's give them a 7.
No, it wasn't a 7. That should have been it doesn't matter what you think. The judges are the judges. That's their job. They tell you what it is. You understand it, learn from it, and then use that information for future. And that's what I coach. Then the winner of that, so it's either Italo Kanoa against Ethan Ewing. The winner of that goes against Jack Robbo. And again, Jack Robbo might be in a good place there. If someone comes through from the 4th and 5th and they've had 2 wins, that might almost be enough where your momentum and energy... The problem with second is you've only got one chance. When they get to the final, it's best of 3. So for Felipe Toledo waiting for the winner of the Jack Robbo and whoever matchup... And I noticed them calling them matches too. We can discuss that in a sec. But they go up against Felipe, and then Felipe's got a best of 3. He can go out and warm up, have a warm up in the first one, and still come back and win. So as I look at that, I'm going to put you on the spot too. But as I look at that, I go Felipe Toledo to win the world title, to win that final 5 day.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, you feel the same
I don't
way?
think anyone has a chance. We could build it up as much as you wanted. If you were paying me to be a hype man, I would hype it up. But there's nobody in the world that can beat him 2 out of 3 that's in this final 5. No way.
And that's my call too. We're 100 on that.
Women's.
Let's look at the women's. The 4th and 5th matchup, Brisa Hennessy, Stephanie Gilmore. Brisa's had a great year, and she qualified and clawed her way in. You know, she's won Sunset, and then she had some couple of good heats there back to back at Chopu to get her position in this. But Stephanie Gilmore's experienced campaigner, the idea of her winning another world title, I think the press like that idea. I think that concept of her going all the way and being someone that won from 5th to all the way through has merit. It's a long way, though. But
It's a long way, but she can do it. She's going to look so good at trestles if there's some walls.
And that's right in her ballpark. And again, question marks around the Chopu performance, you know what I mean? And the backhand, and, you know, which Carissa Moore didn't have.
Hashtag going right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not going to score the lefts.
No. Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, unless perhaps Italo can launch off one of them lefts, some crazy section, see something in there that he could turn a left into something. And on the backhand too. Remember that big, massive backhand air that Felipe did at a Hurley Pro years and years ago at lowers? He did this backhand one that at the time was
not the one where he came off his board and they gave it a 4, 6, 7.
Yeah.
That was a 10 all day.
That was a crazy move. So there's potential on them lefts if you can go to the air. If you're on the rail, going right.
But back to...
Back to the women. So then we go from the Brisa Stephanie matchup to Tatiana, and she's in a good position there at 3rd. And
she almost won last year.
Yeah, and she did great at Chopu, and she's got some momentum going in, and the fact that she didn't do as well as she would have hoped in the Tahiti Pro, that'll fire her up. And so I feel like that's a great spot for her. The winner of that comes up against Joanne Defay.
That 3rd spot's a really good spot for Tatiana. She can get on a roll. She's so competitive. She only has to beat that heat, the next one, and then boom, she's in a fight, and she can fight.
Here's this one. Can the backhand, or
yes,
can the forehand match the backhand on a lowers right? So you're thinking Tatiana's backhand against either Stephanie Brisa or Joanne Defay's, one of those 3. I think the backhand's an advantage for her. Big advantage. But again, we'll know more as we get closer. Joanne Defay, and then the winner of that, Tachi, potentially Brisa or Steph against Joanne, and then the winner of that against Carissa Moore. My feeling is that... Carissa. I've got that same feeling. They've got the yellow jerseys. I love the idea of someone coming from behind and even from 5th and creating this crazy storyline, and that's amazing. And it's possible with Steph in 5th. It's possible for Tachi in 3rd.
How many heats would someone have to win to come from 5th?
1, 2,
5,
3, 4, 5, or potentially 6 if it went best of 3 in the final.
Well, you'd surf 6 heats, but you'd have to win 5 heats in a day. It's too many. People, they act like, well, it's all in one day. It's going to be exciting. There's still lulls.
No, well, particularly in Southern California. That was one of those things that tripped me out when I first started going there, was how long you would sit, and then you'd think, oh, those swells come from that far away, and all of the stuff in between in a close swell has just ironed itself out over thousands and thousands of miles, and you end up with sets and nothing.
Do you remember the Hurley Pro events there?
Yeah.
Are you old enough to remember that?
No, that's
I'm just
yes.
kidding.
Yeah, I'm well.
Do you know
and
that
truly.
we had a meeting once at Hurley, and Pat O'Connell, it was so foggy, it was sacked in, and we couldn't start those events until like 11, so we were losing daylight. You can only run an event there from like 8 to, I think, maybe 4:30. You got to be done pretty early.
Yep.
There's regulations in the state park system there. Pat O'Connell came up with an idea. He said, what if we brought in some really big fans on the beach to blow the fog away? Just thought I'd mention that.
That's a crazy one. He's a thinker. He's a creative thinker. I remember when they brought in bulldozers in England to fix the banks.
I was there at Nijima when they did that. And the tractors at low tide.
Low tide.
And were you at the one where they ran
Florida,
the boats by?
when the boat came up and down.
They ran a boat to push a boatway.
Deerfield
Tommy
Beach,
won,
maybe.
didn't he?
Yeah.
Deerfield.
Yeah, they got the boat to go up and down. I was at that one too. I've seen some funny things
Did
in
that
my time.
work?
Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap up on the women's. I'm going Carissa Moore as my favourite. Mm-hmm. You're there with me. So we've got Philippe Toledo, Carissa Moore as our favourites. That is the final five. We will look at it again in a period of time, in a week or so, and when we know the last minute details of how people's health is, where they're positioned, and we will go over it all again in more detail for you then. But here's a point that I wanted to raise. In the interest of things being fair, if you can't catch the front runner in a single event, right, you should not be invited to the final five. The final five should be an open invitation to anyone who can overtake the leader in one event.
So mathematically, if you're within 10,000 points, you can be in the final five. If there's no one that close, then you just have a top three for that.
That's right. So
because those people throughout the year have proven that they're so dominant, you don't get a chance.
100%.
I agree. That's great.
So you look at Kanoa Igarashi, 40,000. Well, let's start. Felipe's on 54. So Kanoa can't catch him. Italo can't catch him. Ethan Ewing can't catch him. The only person who can catch him in one event with the 10,000 points is Jack Robbo. In my mind, that should be a man-on-man final, and the other three shouldn't be there. Because they can't catch and can't win it in one event.
So they didn't prove all year that they could even deserve that title.
That's what I'm thinking. And then if we look at the women, 57,670 for Carissa Moore, 46,000 Stephanie Gilmore. So Steph wouldn't be there, but 48,085 for Brisa Hennessy. So for the women, you'd have a top four. So my idea is, for WSL, that the only people who should be invited to the finals day are those who mathematically could win it in one single event. Otherwise, you don't deserve to be there because you couldn't have won it except for the luck of that day.
I love it. The Stoked Bloke podcast comes up with a recommendation, suggestion for WSL almost every week. And I heard through the grapevine somewhere that maybe they did get rid of the cut. But we have to look into that more.
Yeah, well, that would be amazing. And I know there'd be a lot of happy surfers there. But
except for the surfers that got cut.
And missed half a year. Don't start us again. So much great feedback. We appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate you, PK. Thank you for everything. I appreciate the New Earth Project and the Pipeline Studios that we get to do this together. Thanks for the support. And to all of you guys out there, we'll be back with a Final Five show. Have a look at that event right before it's about to take off, PK. But thank you for joining us. Thank you to all the surfers. Thank you for Chopu. Have a great one.